Welcome to Vision to Venture. I'm Eddie, and I'm here to uncover the realities of scaling and building a tech startup. Each week, I speak to leaders within the tech space with their insights and advice on how to found, fund, and frame a tech startup. So make sure to follow and subscribe to never miss an episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of Vision to Venture. Today I'm joined by Kerem Sozugecer, the former CTO of Deepzen and former head of speech at Synthesia. Kerem brings a wealth of experience in seamlessly integrating AI into products. And Kerem will be joining us to share his insights and invaluable advice for entrepreneurs in the tech space. Hi, Kerem.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm
happy to be here.
Thank you for coming down and joining us. So, Kerem, just to start with, could you just share with us a little bit more about your background and your journey in the world of natural language processing and synthetic voices?
Yeah, since it's specific to the AI, not going to go too far back, but just a short bio. I'm from Turkey, but I went to school, a university in the US.
Okay.
Spent about 15 years there in startups that were successfully acquired, and I worked in big corporations like Oracle and General Electric, and then decided to become an entrepreneur, and I've been doing that for the past 12 years or so. So my engagement specifically with text-to-speech, deep learning and everything goes back to the starting of Deepzen. I was in machine learning before that. This was before deep learning. So around 2017, a friend of mine came to me and said he had an idea he thinks we can use artificial intelligence, text-to-speech, to build audiobooks.
Okay.
And then I knew nothing about text-to-speech, so it was about kind of like learning about it. I looked what's out there. I learned about the old, how text-to-speech was done, the concatenated speech, that it was like kind of robotic. And now, like, how do you implement this in deep learning? So in early 2018, we kicked off the company. We did set up a pilot with some existing technologies. We raised some seed funding, and then just took off after that.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, I mean, because to me, for what I know, text-to-speech is a fairly new thing in NLP. It's not been around for too long, has it?
Well, I mean, text-to-speech actually existed for 20-something years. But the way it was done...
It's just different.
It was different. It was called concatenated speech, which you would basically take the syllables and paste after each other, so there was no way of controlling any expressivity or any emotion. It would just sound like the voice would change between the syllables, so it would just kind of like sound robotic. And with the deep learning, it was possible to do it end to end, so you could actually generate a human sounding voice.
Got you.
And then how NLP plays a part in this is that because we wanted to build this company to not only generate a synthetic voice, but build audiobooks with it, you actually needed to understand the context, extract emotions from each sentence before you turn them into an emotional and expressive voice that would fit the story. So that's why we had an end-to-end NLP to TTS system from day one. We had two separate research tracks that were working together, and that's how it kind of like, that's the story of Deepzen essentially. Yeah.
And what sort of inspired your transition from co-founder and CTO at Deepzen to obviously becoming the head of speech at Synthesia?
Yeah. So the main thing was, as a product, we did very well at Deepzen. We had one of the best text-to-speech systems in the world. We didn't go back a few years ago. And the problem was that audiobook, it's a great idea to build audiobooks with AI, but then you need to deal with a publishing industry which we had no expertise about, which we found out the harder way later on, that it is archaic. They don't really want to innovate, and then you have other parameters that you need to deal with that we learn over time. You have audiobook narrators who think that we're trying to take over their jobs. You have the writers who are skeptical about AI. You have the marketplaces, audiobook marketplaces, deciding whether to accept AI books or not. So we actually did quite well. We ended up accepting all of our books, having accepted in all marketplaces except Audible. And then we had a separate thing with Audible later on. But essentially, it was hard to grow in that space, even though we had the best technology at that time. And as the CTO, I felt that there's nothing more I could do. And then I had some personal reasons, within 6 months, some health issues, etc. So I said it's time for a change.
Yeah.
I wanted to continue what I was doing because I liked what I was doing and I was good at it. So when I speak to Synthesia early 2022 with the two founders, and they asked me to come in and build it within Synthesia because they were specialized in avatars but not voice or NLP. So that's why I came in and continue, because from an execution perspective, they were doing well. They actually found their place in the market. They had proven their product. So it was about doing more research and adding more capabilities to their already great product, essentially.
Yeah, and to be fair, Synthesia they have got a great product.
Yeah, they
It is very realistic, so fair play, and you must have definitely had a play in that as well. This episode is sponsored by DS Group. DS Group help connect machine learning and software engineering talent with groundbreaking opportunities in the field of AI. So whether you're a company searching for exceptional tech talent or an individual seeking that perfect role, DS Group is your go-to solution. Thanks to DS Group for sponsoring Vision to Venture. Execution is crucial for a startup success.
Yep.
Could you share any specific strategies or approaches that, in your experience, have sort of helped to contribute to successful startup execution?
Yep. I mean, so I can talk more on the AI startup. Let's put it that way, because that's what I've been doing.
Of course.
Because it's very specific in the AI world. I mean, if you look at all the companies that are successful in the AI space, there aren't many yet, right? There are some very big ones, and there's Synthesia, there's a bunch of them. But it's a very hard area to capitalize and become successful. And there's various reasons for that. I think it depends on what you're selling, but you need to find the right balance of different points in running a business, starting a business. And so that, I would say, those are research, those are, and the second one is product, and the third one is execution at the top level, but kind of like the branding of the company, marketing of the company, how you differentiate yourself from other competition. AI world is very crowded. There's so many companies that call themselves AI companies.
Yeah.
They have AI extensions in there, but when you look at them,
realistically, they're not.
A good portion don't even have any research. They just reuse what's out there. Another portion don't use any AI. They just say it's AI, and then so there's a lot of noise, right? And the only way you can differentiate yourself is really putting your product out there, not to your product only, but to the world, to see what your capabilities are. That's how you can just get the fan base, I guess, for your brand name. So it's a mix of these three areas. I would say product is the most important one. You don't necessarily have to productize your whole AI research and sell that. Your AI research can be a small portion of your product, but that product, whatever you build, it needs to solve the customer problem. That's because that's what they're paying for, right? And how do you find that balance between those three parameters? Is obviously changes from business to business. If you're a research-heavy company, it's a bit different. If you're a product-heavy company, it's a bit different. But there needs to be a healthy balance between those three of them. They're all equally important, though. You cannot have the best research in the product, you cannot have the best research in the world, right? But not have a decent product around it. It's just not going to sell, right? And then you cannot have the best, product, but not have any AI capabilities. If you're calling them. So it's just like those things. That even if you have both of them, unless you market yourself to the world indirectly, I'm not talking about just selling to the customers. Let's say it's a B2B business, but actually doing campaigns, social campaigns, etc. You cannot get your name out there either. So it's a combination of all these three things.
It seems like, obviously there's a lot of things that go into it, and you're right, obviously there are a lot of companies out there that say they have AI, that you notice that there isn't really much AI into it, there's just a lot of tech behind it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And so just building on that, many startups obviously grapple with translating research findings in their user-friendly products.
Yep.
What advice would you give on effectively bridging the gap between cutting-edge research and practical product development?
Yep. So I think that's generally exists in every company and every AI company, right? How do you get this done? It's not straightforward, but it's not that complicated either. First of all, there needs to be some kind of function. It might be a person or a function that forms a bridge between product and research. You cannot have them running separately themselves and expect them to work closely because they have different mindsets. Product people, engineers have different mindsets, researchers have different mindset as well.
Of course, yeah.
It's not a bad thing, but it's just that they look at the work and world differently. And how do you make that work is you create a healthy communication between two groups, that's one, but you actually build a proper framework around the whole process between the two, around the two groups that kind of brings the importance of the work that they're trying to do. Because researchers tend to want to do research regardless of how it affects the product if you just don't build that framework.
Yeah.
So they might just go in a rabbit hole and then just go to a research that might not end up anywhere, right? But at the end of the day, for a for-profit company, right, you're about selling your products out there, and then a whole research needs to reflect that. It should be tops down. It starts from the customer, what the product fit is, and you design, you build, you think about the product, and then you plan how you're going to utilize AI within this product. And then it's just, like I said, it's just about setting the mindset within the research team, have them communicating, have an open channel, and then it just becomes a habit. But the key thing is that this framework, you don't want to build a too strict framework because that kind of takes the mood and kills the mood of the researchers because they want to be able to do research, right, as well. So you still want to give them their space to do, think outside the box, try different things. But as long as the main thing is you are building for this product that we're trying to deliver, we have timelines for it, and just as long as we do that, you can always do, do some outside of the box thinking and research as well. I mean, there's no right answer. It depends on the personalities of the team, the structure of the team, the structure of the company. But just generally, you need to form a bridge and build a framework to make the two groups work as a team.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like there's a lot that sort of goes into it in order to make it all work, and obviously, like you said previously, you need to make sure that you have a good product and market it right, and also have that good team in order to make all of these things happen, to come together and obviously have that successful company, isn't it? There is a lot that goes into a successful AI company,
and you need to be lucky as well. I mean, there's always luck involved in these things, obviously, right?
Luck's involved in everything.
Exactly.
For sure. And AI is obviously a significant part of your work. How do you integrate AI seamlessly into products, ensuring it enhances users' experience rather than being a standalone feature?
So kind of goes back to the previous comment, how the importance of product, right? Generally, I mean, OpenAI is a bit of outlier there. Like, you don't want to call your AI research, turn it into a product and sell that directly, right? OpenAI does that, it works well, but generally you need more than just that core research. You need to add more functionality and then make it fit a specific market or vertical, right? Solve a specific core problem for a specific segment in the market. And that's not usually your AI product is not usually enough just to do that, right? Because if you just try to sell your AI research, essentially you would build an API and then you would expect companies to integrate it to that API and then just solve their problems. But there's more to it than just making API calls, right? It's about building the product. So that functionality and complemented by the AI is key. At the end of the day, you might have cases, depending on what your product is, that your AI might not even be used by some of the customers, but all the other functionalities might be used, right?
Yeah.
And so you don't want to fully depend on your research, but make it complementary. Obviously, there will be cases that it's different, right? Because it's such a core research that you can't really. The only way you can productize is to plug into, some industries, process. And that's the only way it would work without another product. But generally speaking, in today's world where there's generative AI and everything that's just like picking up so fast, you need a good product. And that product can make only 10-15% of the product might just be AI, but the rest of it is user experience, the performance, and whether it actually solves a customer problem. And that's the key thing.
With that, obviously, so there's so much that goes into building a business, and so much, especially in an AI business,
Yep.
you know, firsthand. How would you say you sort of prioritize customer engagement in the development process? And what strategies have you found most effective in keeping users satisfied?
Yeah, I mean, I think keeping customers in the loop of in overall process is so I've had startups, right?
Of
My
course.
first startup was like, I had this great idea. I thought it was a great idea. We built the technology. It actually did quite well. From a PR perspective, companies love to do it, but it wasn't necessarily. It was early in the market,
Yeah.
and it wasn't really solving any problems, right?
Yeah.
So this great product just was useless because it was early in its time, and it just like wasn't really. There was no need for it.
Yeah.
Yet anyway. So goes back to customers, right? You're solving a problem for your customers, and as much as you can include customers in your process, your planning process, development process, while they're using your product, get information, collect information on their usage, do surveys, short surveys that are not just too intrusive, do closed betas to kind of test out different features that you cannot decide whether which one is the best out of the. Just keep them involved as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to use it. At the end of the day, they're the ones who wants to pay for it, right? And so it's this. And once you do that, and again, just going back to the previous question, is like that also drives the research as
Of
well.
course,
All this work that you're doing. Okay, this is what the customers need. They pick this over this one. And the implication of this in the research is that, okay, we need to focus on this area rather than doing on these things. So that basically customers really solve all of your problems.
Yeah. And you need the customers to have a business, don't you? So I
Exactly.
guess it's like always listen to them. It's like that saying, customers always right.
That's
like,
absolutely true.
You have to take on their feedback and things that they obviously say to the company and what they're looking for in a product. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to be buying it. So it's like you need to prioritize what they want in order to make something successful, don't you?
And not only that, it actually just customers, you make happy customers.
Exactly.
Not only by just supporting them, and support is important, but actually having them engaged in your decision making, it just you create a bond between the customers, and that kind of you create an indirect value for the customers as well.
You need to know them.
Exactly.
Completely agree. And how important is effective marketing in a visually driven product? And what strategies have you found successful?
So I would say in today's world, social media is super important, right?
Yeah, massively so.
And I think what the key thing here is not to just do a typical ad of selling your product for this much, but actually use your product to create some content.
Yeah.
That is not asking for anybody's money. Right?
Yeah.
It's create a video, or create some synthetic voice, do something with natural language processing, for example.
Put it out there.
Put it out there. Create a social campaign,
Yeah.
and that is fun, that is engaging with people. That just basically says this technology was made by this company, but you're not necessarily asking for any money. Right? And it's very powerful today.
Yeah,
like
100%,
you get this, you captured people's interest, and it just grows like a snowball. And in the traditional marketing of Google ads and that ads, it's just they're boring, and then there's just so many of them. Obviously, you might need some of them, but I would say that's less and less important. Actually, organically, just grabbing customers, target customers' attention is the best way in today's world.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, I mean, social media is so powerful. Obviously, everyone's on it. On their commute to work.
Yep.
You're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, you're everywhere.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I guess, I mean, it really is the best way to sort of advocate your product, get it out there, sell it, because, I mean, TikTok is the biggest social media platform today. And it's perfect because it's just obviously snippets it's just short videos. You can get your point across within 10 seconds and then before they scroll to the next video.
Exactly.
But it is powerful, because if it is something that is obviously catchy or something that interests people, and obviously it goes to the right market and the right customer, like the customers, then it's going to stick in their brain. And they're going to remember it. So I completely agree.
You know, how does that, you know, what does it mean from a, you know, how to do this perspective, right? You normally would work with a campaign, like an ad company or something like that, put your money in ads and all that stuff. Now you actually have to have either internal or external team that actually work on this, like just like working on social media, creating these, creating cool campaigns using your technology, just to kind of like engage people, and I think that's the shift from how it was done about 10 years ago.
Exactly. No, I completely agree. It has, I mean, obviously marketing has come a long way ever since all these different social media platforms come about, and it's just obviously elevated marketing teams in order to obviously get their products and get the word out there a lot easier by enabling and obviously focusing on using these strategies and using these platforms that are just obviously free to everyone, free to use, and it just makes such a massive difference, and it's so much more powerful to get obviously the word out there. So obviously building a community around a product is crucial. How would you say you would approach creating a fan base and staying active on social media to engage with users?
I mean, it's a full-time job.
It really,
to actually to do that, right? You need dedicated people. Be online, not just small campaigns here and there, but people need dedicated to social media, following campaigns, engaging with users in real time, because there's a lot of comments going out there.
Well, that's exactly, and also having people comment on your stuff. In order for them to notice you more, you need to engage with them, because then it brings them back.
And the language is important as well, right? Like people that you're trying to sell today, they're not like, this generation is about, you know, just like easier language, right? You don't have to be formal in their communication. You just want to talk to people like as if you're just having a chat, right?
They're your friend.
So that's very critical, and it's like the younger generations are doing a better job, like being more creative, thinking, you know, in social media, and just the conversation, the language they use is a lot easier than
trends.
Exactly. So I think that's the best thing, but it's like a full-time job. I mean, you literally have people just being 24/7, just engage with the customers, solve their problems, answer their questions, you know, create more attractions for them, just build on top of the campaign or whatever that you're doing. And then it's you actually need a dedicated team to be engaging to social media 24/7,
constantly looking at it, seeing what's coming in, reading those comments, and even learning how to make it. I don't even know how to make a TikTok.
No, exactly. I mean, it used to be just like, you know, project-based campaigns. You do it for a week, you stop, you're done, and then it just doesn't work that way.
No,
everybody's online, and then everybody asks questions all the time. So you kind of need to be on top of it. And that's why, generally speaking, you know, it probably makes sense to have an internal team to manage this than outsource it to a company, because these internal people work with the engineers, the researchers, the product people to actually come up with questions that are, answers that are for questions that are coming in real time, right? And just having an external function, you know, it might work, but it's probably less effective.
Because at the end of the day, the best marketing feature is people talking about your product, isn't it? Word of mouth is the best way. I completely agree with you. It is definitely a lot of hard work. And so just looking back at your time with Deepzen, what were like the key successes as well as specific challenges that sort of provided with valuable lessons for your subsequent ventures? How did that sort of shape your future and your career?
Yeah, I mean, so one thing that we really did well is the research, right? I'm proud of the work that we've done.
Absolutely.
You know, we went through some acquisition talks with big tech that didn't pan out at the end, but it proved us that we had one of the best technologies out there. But yeah, going back to this execution of multiple levels, right? Social media, the branding, and the product that you build, we could have done better there, right? And you know, I think that was the main things that we were lacking. Like as a company, we knew we had the best technology out there, but when you looked for text-to-speech companies existing, we would not show up in a list or in some of the reports unless we actually approached them. So that was kind of like we kind of failed at marketing ourselves, I guess. That's one thing. And also, because we were so specific to the publishing industry, if we had built our text-to-speech for for digital assistants or some trendier use case, podcast, for example, in this case, right? There would be more social coverage, but publishing industries is just like a closed box. It's a very old industry, so that did not help our cause either. So the lesson is, you need to make sure you execute those three things well. Your company's branding and marketing and social media coverage, the product that you build, and how you do your research, AI research accordingly. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, you need to pick the right market.
Of course, yeah. I mean, there's so many out there. And
if you think about it, it wasn't hard to raise money for Deepzen because it just made sense, right? It just the audiobook industry, demand was increasing, I think 25% year over year.
It was just
where
growing.
ebooks like Kindle was only 1 to 2%, right?
Yeah.
And audiobooks, only 5% of new books were being converted into audiobooks because it wasn't possible. You couldn't have enough people to do this. It's just there was a gap there. There was more demand, not enough supply. But again, it wasn't enough.
Absolutely. Because obviously you've now, from Deepzen and Synthesia, both obviously NLP heavy companies. Is that something that you sort of always had an interest in? Was it always something that you wanted to go into when starting out in your tech career?
Not necessarily. I think it all started with Deepzen. It all started with the idea of building audiobooks with AI, and how do you do that? And I just kind of I fell into it, I guess.
It's always
by chance. But I mean, I was already doing machine learning before that. I had a marketing automation, like a small startup marketing automation platform, used machine learning to analyze customer data and sends personalized messages to the customers. So I was already into that. I loved automation and machine learning. And then the next step there was really deep learning and just more like deeper AI and these concepts.
Absolutely. And so obviously you've been in both areas of the tech world in terms of having your own startup and then obviously leading a whole entire team at a much larger sort of scale up. What would you say were like the differences? What did you prefer? Would you do your own startup again? Would you because obviously there's people out there that decide, do they want to start their own company or work their way up to a senior position in a larger company? What would you say are the benefits of being in those two positions?
They're both good in different ways. It's hard to compare. One of them is
for sure.
I like building stuff. That's for sure. But the stability of a scale up that is doing well in the market actually just kind of makes your life a little bit easier. I like them both. But as the company grows, I mean, we've seen like Facebook, right? Meta now. It's like they were a startup. Now it's like I used to talk to a lot of researchers from Meta, and they were just like so tired of working there because everything was so slow. Can you imagine a company that was founded less than 20 years ago, all of a sudden is like, they think it's too big, right? So it eventually happens to all the companies. And I think that the sweet spot is anywhere from like a Series A to Series B, C. I would say B. And anything after that, you actually, even though you call yourself in today's economy, you call yourself a startup, you actually are not. You don't function in a startup way, right? Everything's just, there's red tape, there's a lot of process. Even if you try to minimize that, there's always conflict between people that you need to deal with. So it does make it a little bit more complicated. It's really a matter of preference. If you like more freedom, it's definitely a smaller company, like just building your own space. If you like more stability, but also at the same time play politics a little bit than, just a slightly larger company.
Absolutely. And just to sort of finalize things and wrap up, just off that note as well, for anyone out there that are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs and have an idea and want to obviously start their own startup.
Yeah.
Being obviously having had a startup, what would you say would be your sort of like key advice for those people out there that are thinking of going down that path?
Yeah, I mean, it's get ready for a rough ride. I would say. I mean, it's people always tend to look at like how Meta and like how Zuckerberg, and it's like people just like, oh, I want to be like you. It doesn't work that way. You have a few of these companies that have been
20
lucky.
years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are some companies that have been lucky, but generally, I mean, even the successful ones that I know that are big now, I know them from early days. They all suffered at some point.
Yeah,
right? It's one of those things. It's incredible how you can suffer so much and feel rewarded at the same time. It's like you're torturing yourself but feeling good about it. It's just like that's the thing. The mindset is, it's just, when you start a company, don't start with the idea of, this is $1 billion idea. I can it just doesn't work that way. There's so many things there. But if you have a good idea, if it actually is solving a problem, and if you have the patience and the guts to go on that rough ride, just go for it. Go for it. I think everyone should try it.
Yeah.
You can't know without trying. The second theme is a team. You need to have a good team. Yeah. You need to have a good group of co-founders.
A lot of people definitely say that.
One is definitely just, I've seen examples that work, but it's tough. 2, 3, 4 co-founders, depending, if they complement each other. You need to split the work, because there's a lot of work.
Yeah, bounce ideas off each other.
Exactly, and you need to find when you start a company, you need to put everything on the table and just talk openly, because it's really hard to make a partnership work.
Yeah. But yeah, some really, really great advice there, Kerem. Really, really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you coming on. It's been very interesting. And
Thank you.
Should we expect anything from you in the future?
Yeah, I need to figure that out. I'm still in the process. I'm resting, but I'm in the process of thinking the next steps.
Everyone deserves a rest. Enjoy your rest.
Yeah, that's definitely.
But thank you for coming down and joining me on Vision Adventure.
Thanks for inviting. It's been great.
It has been great. It's been very interesting to hear about your background and story, and hopefully our listeners can gain something from your advice. Yeah, and I'm sure they will.
If I can help, I'm happy. Yeah.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Vision to Venture. If you're listening, make sure to give us a 5-star review. And if you're watching, like and subscribe to listen to more inspiring stories from leaders in the tech space.